Welcome, guys. I just got back from moving, and holy crap, do I have some drama to cover. One of my favorite creators came out with a video, and apparently people were really not happy about it. That being said, I don't know exactly what she has said yet, but I want to find out. I want to see if she's actually in the right or in the wrong. I think there's 3 videos in total to watch, and they're not super long, so don't be worried about that. The video is the abysmal new player experience on Honkai Star Rail. Before we get into this video, I would assume the new player experience isn't that bad because you get a lot of free stuff. That being said, the game's really complicated and there are a lot of roadblocks. And unless you watch content on this game, I don't know that you could realistically progress in this game that well just based off of what the game has shown you. So we'll see. But let's see what she has to say.
Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Hexjuice, and I am here to talk to you about the absolutely abysmal state of the new player experience in Honkai Star Rail. As a newer player myself, I have discovered how difficult it can be to get into the game. I have seen a lot of the pitfalls that people fall into at the advice of guide makers. Building Dr. Ratio is a complete scam, and I want to talk...
Okay. I want to be clear. I think every character in the game could be a scam to build, and I think every character in the game can make your account. That being said, I don't think she's wrong. I mean, Dr. Ratio at the end of the day is a hunt character that required 5-star character investment in order to get running. And if you're new at the game, you don't have that, so he probably would be fairly mediocre. Like, you'd probably just be better off with a serval, honestly. Clearing most of the early game. Like, Imaginary wasn't, like, that important.
Talk about how this will continue to affect the community in the future. It is something that I am concerned about as someone who is getting more and more into Honkai Star Rail. I've been really enjoying the game since I got Acheron and stopped using Dr. Ratio. Complete scam unit.
Okay. Every unit in the game is a scam compared to Acheron. Acheron is so ridiculously overpowered and strong. His power crept every character that I have. Like, I was all in on going follow-up comp, right? Getting Topaz, getting Adventurines, so that my ratio would be OP, and that my Clara could work with them too, all that good stuff. But they just don't even approach the same stratosphere of damage that Acheron does. Not that I need that damage, but it's a little depressing when Acheron's hitting 1 million and everyone else is hitting like 250,000. Like, I used to be happy with that, and now I'm like, bro, Acheron could clear this in 5 seconds. Like, one ult, they're dead. So, I can see where she's coming from here.
But I hope you guys enjoy. I have a lot of...
But it's not really a scam if it's free. I guess it's not free because you have to use all of your time and resources on it. But the character itself, you know, getting the character wasn't the scam. Building them, yes.
Thoughts about this, and I know that this might in some ways be a bit of a hot take, but I do it out of all of the love and respect for the community possible, so I hope that you will hear me out. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think down below, and I hope that you enjoy this snippet of my stream. Subscribe! The new player experience in Honkai Star Rail is very poor. A lot of y'all forget that people have not all played since day 1. In fact, a lot of people who would keep the game alive...
Dude, the amount of crap I get for taking 2 weeks off this game is wild. I started on day 1, right? I took 2 weeks off because I had a bunch of stuff going on. And you know what event I missed during that 2 weeks? Oh, the only event they didn't rerun, which is the one that gave you the freaking Silver Wolf Lightcomb for free. Like, everyone's like, oh, just put it on your Pella, put it on your Silver Wolf, blah, 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 blah. I can't. I don't have it. I have everything else in the game but that one stupid Lightcomb that I can't get that happens to be the best in slot for like 5 characters. Oh, it's so frustrating. So I'm assuming she's going to probably touch on that kind of stuff here.
And refreshing the community would be people who have not played since day 1. And this is something that I know is very prevalent because all the time I get comments, I get chat messages. Well, why don't you have this? It's been there since day 1. Why don't you have that? It's been there since day 1. And people, like, actually, I think actively forget that there are people who could play Honkai Star Rail who have not played since it released. And that's okay. It's all right because
Realistically, it's the new players that keep this game alive. Like, old players quit every single day. New players start every single day. I should move myself so that I'm not blocking her. That's better. Yeah. I think we have to have new players or the game dies. Like, that's just how it works. That's why Genshin caters basically only to new players.
realistically, obviously, a lot of us, in some form or fashion, are refugees from Genshin Impact. The difference with Honkai Star Rail and Genshin are many, but one of the biggest ones is that Honkai Star Rail is significantly more complicated. There is not an elemental system in Honkai Star Rail that pads out damage. Back in my day,
Let's extrapolate that a little bit. So I think on paper, if you're explaining to a new player the elemental system of this game versus that game, it is dramatically more complicated on Genshin. So in Genshin, you take two elements and you combine them. And yes, it makes sense if you have common sense how they combine, but then how that combination affects other elements doesn't necessarily make sense. Like, I don't think anyone was thinking, oh, if I just combine water and grass and lightning, I one-shot everything in the game. That's not like a normal thing someone's going to think about unless they're told. Now, all of the reactions just do a ton of damage, so that's dope. But then, like, you would think Geo is super strong, but it sucks, and it doesn't work with anything. But you think it does because the game makes it look like it would, but it doesn't. So I would say their system is probably more complicated because in Star Rail, the system is if I'm lightning, I hit the lightning shield. If I'm fire, I hit the fire shield. I will do more damage if I match the element. And I think matching for damage makes way more, it takes way less thinking, like, oh, just match red with red, than it does to say if I match red with blue, that together will make frickin' purple, and then that purple will do more damage to this enemy with a blue shield. Like, that's not, and that's probably, that's not even how that works, but you know what I mean? You don't have to combine elements in this game. So that whole section of like theory crafting, gone. On top of that, that other game also has the normal stuff, like red will beat blue, blue can beat red, vice versa. In this game, you just have to do red on red or blue on blue, or your character just does so much damage it doesn't matter. So I think it's a lot simpler in terms of just the elemental system when you're playing this game, personally. Also, if you suck and you don't know what to do, you can just click auto and the game does it for you. So like that automatically I feel like makes it easier. And on top of that, it's slow. So you can think about what you're going to do. You don't have to like dodge with reaction time or like hit the enemy like super fast over and over and like hot swap between units. That's like not a thing. I think that is a certain level of mechanical skill that we got used to with Genshin, but it's just not a thing in Star Rail. Like, you don't have to do any of that crap. The hardest thing you do in this game is time your ultimate before your character goes on this side of the screen, or up here, up there. Is just time your ultimate to go before the guy goes or whatever. But the game can auto do that for you, so it's really not that difficult. And on PlayStation, it's even easier because if you like hold down the button to activate your ultimate, it just pauses the whole game for you, which is crazy. I wish it did that on PC actually, because it's kind of cool.
I had a relatively well built Hu Tao. I had a shittily built Xingqiu, and I could explode basically anything. The artifacts.
That team was freaking crazy. I never built it, but yeah, that team carried hard. That team was OP.
Were not nearly as important.
That being said, Hu Tao I felt like required some mechanically complex mechanics in order to actually be played correctly. When a lot of other units didn't have to do anything remotely as difficult as Hu Tao did.
In Honkai Star Rail, you kind of have to have really good artifacts, and you have to farm relics a lot more seriously. And the problem that I want to bring up about this is that God, relics are worse in this game. Because of the reality that there are so many more stats that can be on relics than in Genshin.
Is that true? There's no way that's true, right? I thought it was like the same. Let's look. Genshin potential artifact stats. Okay. In Genshin, you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you can get 5 or 6 or 7, depending on what you get. And you get the 4 bases, the initial value of each. Oh, are these all the potential substats in the game that you could want? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so you have 10 potential substats in this game. Well, no, because then you also have all the elemental substats. Yeah, because you have the specific damage bonus ones. So this is actually more like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you have healing bonus on this one. Okay, so there's 11. And then you also have to do the damage bonus. So you'd have 12, 13, 14. So you have like, I don't know, 18 or so substats once you add up all of the different elements. So let's see. Honkai Star Rail potential relic stats. Okay. What do we get? That's not helpful. Potential relic substats. Okay. Oh god. This looks like more off the bat, but I feel like it's probably not more. Okay, so those are all the main stat options. And then substats. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 12 substat options, and then main stat wise, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So there's 19 potential main stats, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12 potential substats. And then in Genshin, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's also 10 substats. So 10 substats on both sides. Okay, there's 12. So what's the differences then? So speed, obviously, and break effect? Are those the only 2 new ones? But then you don't have an elemental recharge. So there's like one. Oh, and effect hit rate. Okay, so there's like basically one extra substat option. And then in terms of main stats, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different damage boosts, which there's what? Pyro, Cryo, Hydro, Dendro, Animo, Geo. Wait. Pyro, Hydro, Animo, Electro, Geo, Dendro. Okay, what the frick? Elements in Genshin. Where are all the elements? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 elements in that game, and there's. Okay, start. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 7 in both games. Okay, that's good. There's 7 elements in both games, so you get the same number of elemental boosts. Outgoing healing bonuses in both games. They just move. Okay, so honestly, I think it's about the same because you have some stuff that is a substat in Genshin is a main stat in Star Rail, and then vice versa. I think they're very, very freaking similar. Like very similar. I don't know. Maybe slightly more complicated, but you can. I don't know.
Farming.
I also feel like you have more relic slots though in this game. Maybe that's the problem. You have planar ornaments, which just gives you more stats in general. Because I don't think Genshin didn't have planar ornaments. You could farm the same domain to get everything, pretty much. Am I misremembering this? I don't know. We'll move on.
Relics in Honkai is miserable. And the other thing is that because relics have.
Okay, here's my other rebuttal. Sorry, I'm pausing her a lot. You get way more free fuel in this game to refresh and farm more in this game than you do in Genshin, Also, in Genshin, you spend about half your actual resin value to farm than you do in Star Rail, but in Star Rail, you get more per farm. So it actually takes way less time in Star Rail than it does in Genshin. So Genshin feels like you get more chances at stuff, but it's actually the same, except one of the games takes less time. So that's why I like it better in this game than I do in that game.
Have a much higher level of importance in Honkai Star Rail.
She is right, though. Your stats do matter more in this game because you actually have to survive things. You can't just dodge everything. So you do need like a certain baseline of stats to be able to clear stuff.
Means that the new player experience is naturally a bit more unpleasant. You have to have relics to do good damage. You cannot really farm relics until at least level 60.
Those two complaints I feel like are in both games, though. Like in Genshin, you also just don't do damage and you get one shot by everything, and you can't farm until you're way farther into the game.
You can't farm relics at max efficiently until level 65, and that takes months. And so what that leaves is players who are unable to get damage, especially out of certain characters that really
I feel like both games have this exact same problem. I'm not saying it's not a problem, but both games have this problem.
really need high
Except one game's a year old and the other game's like 3 years old.
relic quality for months, because so many players have been playing since day one, and because most people who make guides
Have you thought about just getting lucky? Just getting the right relics that you need? I think that would help. Like, dramatically, you know?
or make recommendations to players, A, both have played since day one, and B, sort of do have the assumption that everybody else has played since day one. It means that the advice that you are given, it's not particularly usable. One of the biggest things that I was told was to build Doctor Ratio. In most ways, that makes a lot of sense. Doctor Ratio
makes
is
some
a free
sense.
5-star. The problem as a new player with Doctor Ratio is multifaceted. So he needs other characters to be good. He needs really good relics to be good. And it takes a very, 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 very long time for players to get to the point where they can actually farm relics that are good enough for him. And
So, I feel like that really depends. Because based on your initial polls in the game and who you have, Dr. Ratio would be like a slam dunk character to carry you. Because at the beginning of the game it was Zila, just build Zila, Zila carries everything. But she wasn't good unless you had like the right supports, and I think that's the case with basically every unit in this game. Now, I know Hexjuice's account, she has the units to make Dr. Ratio frickin' pop off. For the most part, she's got most of what she needed. She was shafted because she didn't have a freaking Pella. Now that she has Pella, well, she's gonna be way stronger. But she had a Topaz, and I feel like if you see someone has a Topaz, well, it makes sense then for them to build Dr. Ratio, because Topaz is essentially useless without Dr. Ratio. At least I think she's useless without Ratio. Or I guess Himiko, but Himiko's not that great either.
it sucks.
Outside of your fiction.
It sucks for new players because you are telling them to build a character that is not going to be worth it until very late game. In no way is Dr. Ratio free-to-play friendly. Free-to-play players will have him, but that does not make a character inherently free-to-play friendly. Yes, he can.
I like this point a lot, actually. She's right. You having the character doesn't make it good for your account. Straight up. It's not friendly. He is 100% free to play because you don't have to pay for him, but you know who else is free to play? Freaking, like, you could make the argument, Serval and Arlon. Like, no one really uses them. They kind of suck. Using your resources on them is a complete waste of time for most people. But it's free to play. It's free to play friendly, am I right, guys? Like, we should definitely build that because it's free to play. I mean, at the end of the day, just because it's free and that you have it doesn't mean you got to use it. Like, I've accidentally pulled 5-stars on this game. Multiple Yongqings, you know, while trying to pull other units. You know what I didn't do? Go build frickin' Yongqing and use him. Because he sucks. You could say it was a free-to-play friendly move to build him because I have him like E2 or whatever. But you can also say that would be a complete waste of resources. And as a free-to-play, like, those resources matter a lot. Now, I'm not free-to-play, and I still think the resources matter a lot. So imagine if you freaking were free-to-play, how much more those resources would mean.
And eventually explode like every single thing in the entire game, and that's really fun and cool and poggers. Like, the reality is not every character requires that level of investment in order to be usable. My account is level 64.
These Acheron stats are freaking crazy, by the way. But let's keep in mind she has a bunch of buffs. I mean, these are good stats. These are not bad.
Not even 65. I have farmed relics approximately 4 times ever. My Acheron has horrendous stats. They are buffed right now because of Sparkle and some of my blessings. Realistically speaking, my Acheron is not well built, and Acheron does...
Okay. She does have an S1 Acheron, and everything's level 80. So Acheron's gonna pop off and do amazing. I almost am willing to bet her Doctor ratio doesn't have the same traces and doesn't have S1, which will dramatically affect his performance. He is single target though, which automatically makes him worse than Acheron. Now I also know, I don't think she actually hates Doctor ratio. I think she's memeing and being facetious, and it's fun and makes good content, so keep going. But yeah, how can you possibly say Acheron's not better than Doctor Ratio, and Doctor Ratio's trash can? Like, here's my example. Doctor Ratio, I'm gonna use all my abilities and I'm gonna hit this guy and I'm gonna one-shot him and he's gonna die. Yeah. Okay. He needs a lot of speed for that. He's gotta go multiple times, you know, all that good stuff. Acheron, I'm just gonna let my team go a couple times, get those debuffs on him, and then I'm just gonna one-shot everybody. And I don't even actually need to go myself once. Like, what do you guys think is better? Like, of course Acheron's better. She's stupid.
Does very decent damage and has completely transformed my account. I have been able to clear content that I could not do before. You do have to invest in every character, but the level of investment is different. And if you don't...
And if she got lucky on her freaking artifact set for Acheron, so, here's another great thing. Okay, they use the same relics. So if she farmed Acheron and got, like, crazy cool relics, or, like, mediocrely good relics, she's just gonna move them between the two characters. So she could technically just use all of her Acheron stuff on Ratio, and it would be good. I know she doesn't actually hate Ratio, and she'll probably still use him when she has to fight Imaginary. But the funny thing is I almost bet Acheron's gonna be better against Imaginary than Ratio, because she's AoE. Like the Swarm boss, like these bosses, Ratio's pretty good against, but like freaking Acheron's just gonna mop the floor with them.
Don't
I
actually
almost bet that
understand
she
that,
one-shots
and
this
you're
True Sword.
typing in your fingers like, well, every character needs investment. Yeah, no shit. But the reality is that some
Less investment's better.
a lot of investment, and some characters will do double the damage of those characters with like no investment. And recommending characters,
it will always look like Acheron does double the damage of Ratio because she's hitting everybody, and the damage thingy will multiply how much damage she does by everything that's hit, and Ratio can only hit one at a time. I'd be interested to know how much single target she's doing, but I still think Acheron's better. I think she's right here.
blindly, based on an assumed level of investment, means that you are telling people not only like unhelpful and bad information that will actively hurt them, but also make it discouraging to play the game. Because I'll be honest, I was pretty discouraged for a while because I was like, I'm building this Ratio. Everybody said this Ratio is going to be like really good for my account. And I hate him with the passion of...
You should never build a character you hate. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I probably won't get Adventuring just because I hate him, even though I know he's probably gonna be good.
and Fury of 1,000 Suns, and he does no damage. It
I love that saying, with the fury of 1,000 suns. That's what's one of my favorite sayings.
would be nice if the recommendations we made kept in mind an actual regular player's experience. The reality is the vast majority of Twitch viewers have very high level of investment into the game, into the community.
She's right. You don't freaking watch a turn-based mobile game on Twitch unless you're obsessed with the game. Most people are just playing this on their phone for 10 minutes on the toilet a day or at work. And they don't have sound on, and they don't really do the story. Like, most people are not that invested into this game at all.
A lot of you guys watch a ton of Honkai Star Rail content creators. It's easy to lose track of the primary player base when the majority of the people that speak in your stream, the majority of other content creators are incredibly sweaty about this game. Not negative, just true. Means that there are people who are left out, and it is going to prevent this game from growing. It is a problem that this community in the guides and like basically everything about this game is relatively unwelcoming to new players. There's a high barrier to entry on a lot of levels. The best thing about the community is that it has incredible content creators. I think that Hoyo Games, especially Honkai Star Rail, have some of the best, most interesting, hardworking content creators of like any game. And so that brings people in. Tectone is a good entertainer. Mr. Pokey's a good.
I'll keep it 100%. I would not play these games if it wasn't for the content creators. They definitely 100% keep this game alive and keep it interesting, keep me thinking about it. Like, I don't know if I would care about it at all if it was just a single player experience without me. Like, Hoyo better be begging on their knees, thanking these content creators for playing their games, because they are the main reason to play the game, is to stay a part of the online community and the drama and all that. Like, it's very fun.
Entertainer. Sevi makes great guides. Braxophone is very sweet, makes good guides. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of really, really, really fucking good Honkai Star Rail content creators, but it is so hard to get into the game when so much is assumed. Have you ever gone into like a math class and it was a math class that like you did not belong in, right? Like you skipped algebra 1 and you went to algebra 2 because they thought you was smart or whatever. And then they're telling you shit and assuming a bunch of shit that you're supposed to know, and you're like, I gotta go back down to algebra 1. Y'all have all these letters in here. I was still on long division, bitch. What is this? That's how it feels getting into Honkai Star Rail sometimes, where it's just like there's so much that is being assumed that I understand that it's like, God damn, I don't know how to get into this shit. I'm talking about this from a genuine place of like adoration for this.
This is how people feel about freaking League of Legends, dude. League of Legends and Valorant, every time you try to get someone new into the game, it's like teaching them calculus.
Community and for its content creators. I love this game. I love the community. I love my community. It is important to note that we are making it very difficult for new players to come in. I guess to me, this is sort of a...
Oh, she got one shot.
Okay, surely this just one shots, right? It's the easiest one shot known to man.
Got
one of them.
Got it.
Fuck! I want to start talking about like theory crafting stuff and like guide making stuff, like not making guides specifically, but I want to start making certain parts of my content about what the actual experience of playing the game with a character is. And I want there to be new players, because if the game stops bringing people in,
that's true,
it's going to be hard for the community to survive. Maybe not this year and maybe not next year, but
I will say I have a really hard time getting new people to play this game. I try to get a lot of my friends into this game, and they want an idle game usually, and this game is a lot more hands-on than they're expecting, and having to move around and read the story and all that, they don't have time for, especially for a mobile game. But most of my friends just want to play it mobile. And they like this, the time it takes to actually get fully invested in this game takes a little bit, and so that kind of is hard for a lot of people. The other thing that's hard for them is just understanding everything that's going on, like she's right. And this game just requires a lot of freaking dedication and time. Like, a lot of people, until you get the rhythm of I'm gonna log on every day, like while I'm eating breakfast and do dailies and stuff, until you get to that rhythm, it's a lot. You have to sink a lot of time into the game. Like right now, I can play about like 10 minutes a day, and it's awesome. And I just play it at work, and I play it on my phone. I almost never play on my computer unless I'm streaming. But like the build up to get to that point takes so long. Like, I don't think people understand how long it takes. Like, most people don't get the experience that the end game people get that I love when they're going through. Like, I don't want to play this game freaking 15 hours a day. That's hard. And you also got to remember, the demographic for this game is freaking middle schoolers. Like, you got to get the middle school Zoomer kids and, like, the high schoolers to play this on their phones in between classes. That's who you need to get to play it. So if this game doesn't give you, like, instant stuff, or they're not, like, invested in how great the characters look or whatever, it's going to be hard to get them to keep playing. Like, just full transparency. Like, that's what I ran into when I was in schools. People would play stuff like Raid Shadow Legends, things like that, because they could play it so idly and like gain progression. And in this game, like, it was too in between for them, and they couldn't do that. So unless they like were total coomers or they just really loved the story, it took them a while to get invested, and it was hard to keep people long term. Like, a lot of my friends quit basically as soon as they got to Eurelo 6, which is wild because that was a great part of the game.
But as time goes on, more new player-friendly games will take over, and this game will sort of atrophy into being a game that is primarily full of sweaties and people who have who won't leave. And I will say that respectfully, what does that remind you of? A game of people who are maybe a bit too
What do we
dedicated
think,
and
guys?
sweaty and have been playing for a million years and just won't stop or acknowledge.
I know she's probably hinting at Genshin, but my first thought is League of Legends. We spent thousands on that game. People are never gonna stop playing. It is such a high barrier to entry. It's not even funny. Valorant is getting that way too. Counter-Strike is another one. Basically any fully competitive game is like this. Here's the best part. This is not a competitive game. And it still has that problem. That's the crazy part. This is a casual game, and it has the same issue, which is just nuts.
Problems. What community? That does sound like another community that we know of to me. And I don't want this community to be like that community. I don't want it to be like Honkai Star Rail could never when Zenless Zone Zero comes out or something, you know? When the game only gets more and more difficult to get into.
I'm gonna make a video when Zenless Zone Zero comes out that says Honkai could never suck this bad.
When the community only gets more and more sweaty and less understanding of the new player experience, that is going to continuously, over time, hurt the longevity of the game. So that's my point. I don't know if this was like relatable or helpful, and I'm sure a lot of people in the comments are gonna be like, we don't need to cater to every kind of player. But it's like, we should cater to like maybe more players though. We should cater to players who might like the game, but maybe are turned away when their ratio that they were told was gonna save our account is actually horrendous to play and
Anyone saying a freaking DPS is gonna save your account is stupid. The supports are what saves your account. Like the Pella did more for her account than Ratio ever will. Because the supports enable all of your other units to be OP. And the Ratio only can pop off if he has all the freaking supports behind him. Like, that's just a reality.
Does no damage until you're like level 70 and have been farming relics like every day for a billion years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not very encouraging. So that's the point. Goodbye, YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe.
Is there more to this?
Tell me what character you think new player.
Okay, so apparently she got a lot of hate for this video. I don't get it. I think it's because people are probably just in love with Dr. Ratio, or they don't want to admit that their game has some issues, which it 100% does. Is this the second one? It's not. Yeah, it's this one.
Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Hex.
So this is her response to all the backlash. I did see the comments. People went freaking off on her, like saying she's an idiot, essentially, which I don't understand how. It was a very articulate. It was a very good argument that she had. It's not she. Yeah, we'll get into it. She'll explain it.
And I am back at it again with another video being apparently terribly controversial. I didn't really know how much people weren't going to like my last video. So this is sort of a follow-up.
She's basically the Batman of Genshin, right? Like, she's obviously a Batgirl. She may not be the hero we want. She's the one we deserve. Is that the saying? I don't know. I'm corny.
Of the video I made yesterday. I want to take this time to clarify some points that I had because I don't think I said them very well. I want to clarify.
I think you said them fine. Hopefully I understood your points and they didn't all just completely go over my head, but I feel like you made your points pretty well.
What my actual issue is, because it kind of doesn't get to that until the very end of the video of my first video.
I'm gonna guess before she says it. I think her issue is that the game is really hard to get into. The content creators and the players recommend things that are not helpful for new players because they don't actually help the new players until they're not new anymore. I think the resource management and farming is really complicated and takes forever, and that makes it hard to actually catch up to where people are to do the stuff that they want you to do. And overall, if people gave her more relatable advice for what she already had, and the advice was more tailored to what she had, she probably would have enjoyed the experience more. And this is coming from someone that plays the game full-time online on stream and has the entire world helping her out. So imagine if you were a freaking 12-year-old playing on your phone in your room and you don't watch guides, how hard and miserable it would be. I'm assuming that is the argument, hopefully.
Video, which wasn't super great on my part, my bad. And I want to address the fact that my point is that sometimes the community makes it a little bit hard to join the game when the game is already a gacha game, which is realistically sometimes a little difficult. So I hope you enjoy, like, comment, subscribe. Also, since all of you disliked how much I said I don't like Dr. Ratio, I will now be committing fully to the bit that Dr. Ratio is the worst character in the game, worse than Arlen.
She's doing the Tectone thing where he will not admit that Silverwolf is good. To the point now where Silverwolf's not good, and he probably will switch up now and say she's good. But yeah, Tectone did the same thing where he didn't like Silverwolf, and then he's just gonna ride the bit out until he dies. That Silverwolf sucks, and I also hate Silverwolf. I actually do think she sucks though. Like, I hate her. I think she's terrible. Um, but yeah, that's funny. She's doing the same thing Tectone did, which is good. She likes Tectone, and it's smart. Yeah, I will die on any hill. Straight up, I understand this completely. Ratio obviously is not terrible, but he's not great, and so we're gonna say he's terrible because that's the way to go.
And also Misha, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. I will be spreading this misinformation on the internet forever.
If people are mad that she's admitting she'll spread the misinformation forever, they're stupid. Like, she's literally telling you she's joking, and they're still not gonna get it.
Subscribe!
This is the best subscribe of any freaking YouTuber. I love it. It's so
I
good.
think that there is overall an issue with the way that we give advice in this community. And I did make a video about that. And because I was a bit of a coward in saying what I was trying to say, it did not translate well what my actual point was. My point is,
maybe I missed
the
it too.
advice that a lot of guide makers give is not usable for newer players, lower investment players, or like sometimes even free to play depending. Because Jing Liu would have been fine for my account. But would it have been better than Acheron? Absolutely.
So here's where I think people miss the mark. Jing Liu would have been awesome on her account. If she didn't get Pela, that probably would have been better than Acheron. That being said, they're for different purposes. Like, Jing Liu's better against Ice, Acheron's better against Lightning. I'm still going to use my Jing Liu against Ice, like, why wouldn't I? Also, both are great. It's just depending on what you have on your account, one's going to be better than the other. Like, it's really not that deep. Both are fine, just pick whoever you think is cooler.
In no way would Jing Liu have been better for my account than Acheron on any planet because Acheron is broken. Jing Liu is a replaceable unit. Dr. Ratio, additionally...
Acheron's replaceable too. 100%. We will be replacing her at some point. It's a turn-based game. Like, everything's going to depend on what the meta is. Like, what are we fighting? There's going to be stuff that we just can't beat with Acheron.
Is a replaceable unit. The entirety of Dr. Ratio's utility is just the ability to do big damage.
This team is cracked, by the way. You replace Huohua with Adventuring, and then you replace freaking Bronya with Sparkle, and this team beats everything in the game. Like, I know she was memeing. She's obviously memeing that she hates Ratio. She just said that. She has, like, the best Ratio team. So if she doesn't like Ratio, then that's fine. Like, it's not like she's trying Ratio with a freaking garbage crap team. Like, her team's amazing.
Damage. Dr. Ratio does not add anything to your team that another damage dealer could not add. Unless you just really like him, or...
Unless you're a Topaz main. Like, Topaz and Ratio is like one of those disgusting combos in the game. It's like Himiko Herta.
Or if you have Topaz and Numby, that can be great too. But Dr. Ratio just does not add utility like someone like Acheron, like someone like Kafka does at all. How the hell are you gonna play Dr. Ratio if you got him? If you're not a day one player, if you're a newer player especially. This community...
Yeah, because if you have Dr. Ratio, you probably don't have Topaz and Numby. You definitely don't have Adventuring yet, and I doubt you pulled Sparkle. And that's, like, the best crap for him, pretty much. Like, it's really good. And I know he's missing, like, the debuffers or whatever, but if you have the right investment in each character, like, you'll be fine, I guess, without the debuffers. Like, people say you need Silverwolf and Pela for him, but I think Sparkle's technically better. Or I guess you could even use Ruan Mei. Ruan Mei would also make this team better. Sparkle makes his follow-up attacks for whoever she buffs a lot stronger, but Ruan Mei helps the double DPS quite a bit, so I don't know.
He has a very, very bad habit of acting like there's no such thing as a new player. All of the players in this game, because most of you are day one players, a vast majority of people have played since day one because you are Genshin refugees. Y'all forget that there are people who might want to come into the game and like have a more fun time. People give recommendations for who to pull for based on the highest ceiling of damage possible, which is also why a lot of people said that Acheron was not a good pull, because the highest ceiling of damage possible for Acheron, you do kind of need her Eidolons, and you do kind of need her.
That's every unit ever, though. Which she's probably going to say. Every unit ever. If you want to do the highest damage possible, spend the most money. Give them the most investment. Of course. That's just how it works.
Light Cone for the highest ceiling of damage. How many of y'all feel the need to do more than 1 million damage? No one needs that.
Well, when the boss has 2 million HP and I'm trying to zero cycle him, that's when I need to. Otherwise, never. She's right. Never.
But you can do more than enough damage with Acheron without her Light Cone and without her team. It's much nicer with her Light Cone. I will say that I personally think that Acheron's Light Cone is a lot more of a quality of life buff than an actual, like...
And keep in mind, she doesn't have a lot of signature Light Cones. Whoever you put the most investment in, you're going to think is the best, probably, usually. Horatio definitely doesn't have his Light Cone. Not that he's even remotely as good as she is with his Light Cone, but keeping it all fair and even here.
More damage buff for her. Recommending characters based on overall usability is very, very valuable compared to on the highest ceiling, because a lot of the Acheron recommendations were based on...
I will also say, I think you do need an imaginary unit in this game. You need one carry of every element, and Ratio, I think, is just the best option if you're going to be using imaginary. The other options are all limited 5 stars, right? And are there other 5-star units that aren't free? So you would build Ratio if you have to use imaginary, because why wouldn't you? You already have them. Acheron has a lot of competition. Honestly, it is still a little bit of a hard sell to say get Acheron when you have a fully invested Kafka comp. Because realistically, they both do very similar things and will get you out of the content you need to do. Acheron's just way freaking cooler, personally. I think she's way cooler than Kafka.
On the highest, getting the highest possible damage out of her. You get more than enough damage out of her and all of the same utility. E0,
I also want to point out, she is way farther in the game, way more invested, and way better at the game now that she has Acheron than she was when she was building up and leveling Dr. Ratio. So, like, there is that. But I'm going to let her go.
E0, no Light Cone. You get very more utility than most other characters and more damage than most other characters in the game. So this was the team that I was using previously. I am not going to be using Dr. Ratio anymore because I think Dot is more fun.
So this team sucks. That's why. Ting Yen, Lynx, not good for Ratio. Like if she put Gallagher instead of Lynx so that he could put the dots, because Ratio uses those, right? Then Gallagher also will be buffing Topaz and Numby with Penacony set. And then you use friggin' Sparkle or Pella instead of Ting Yen. This team goes hard. She has that already on her account. And then she could use the team if she wanted to. Because I know she likes Topaz. I know she doesn't utterly hate Ratio. So if she had to use them, obviously you put your best supports on either team. And the teams are going to be great. That being said, everyone has one primary team that they use everywhere. And it makes sense just to use Ratio. But if she needs to use this team in Memory of Chaos, well, that's who you should probably put. You either put your Adventuring or your Gallagher over here. And then you replace Ting Yen with your Sparkle, or if you have Ruan Mei. Or you can even just put Pella. Pella will be awesome over here.
Fun. But this was the team that I was running on Ratio. This was not consistent.
This team 100% makes sense why she hates Ratio. 100%.
Ratio is high risk, high reward. The problem is that it's not consistent. I could just simply use these two teams and have...
The reason it's not consistent is because Ratio's not always landing his follow-up attack, because you didn't have enough debuff.
Have way more fun and think way less and do more damage and have sexy women. Your cost to benefit ratio is much better on...
Oh my god, I don't know if she even realized. That's a good dad joke. The cost to benefit ratio. I don't know why that got me so good. Ooh, okay.
On a team like this, or a team like this, than the cost to benefit ratio on a team like this. And then, when I didn't have to use this second...
Okay, I think her Dot team, though, is probably worse than this team if she uses the optimal supports. Just keeping it a buck.
...team anymore, and I could use this team, I started flying through MOC. I started absolutely flying suddenly through MOCs that I could not do. I literally just went to the Acheron team and stopped using the Ratio team, a team that needs lower investment, and needs lower requirements
That's
from
fair.
the other units in the game. I've 3-starred all
That's
of
fair.
these. I don't think I've really done this yet because I get sick of doing this monkey shit. And then,
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
I
whoa,
still
whoa,
can't do
whoa,
this one.
whoa. The one she just showed, you just put Akron on the first half, and then you run your freaking ratio team on the second half. Like, it was imaginary and lightning. How else are you gonna beat it? I don't know.
It's gonna be real. I fucking
not sure.
hate this lady. This lady is such a bitch.
She is really
I
annoying.
also have completed a pretty,
Acheron's crazy for
impressive
pure
amount
fiction.
of pure fiction.
Anyone who says otherwise is
Just
stupid.
from having the characters that I have. Look at this.
Yeah, she did good.
This is my level 64 account. But this is just with my Acheron and Kafka team. I just said, fuck Dr. Ratio. Yes,
Yeah, Dr.
Ratio
Ratio
can
sucks
be
in pure
good
fiction,
if you have all
100%.
the right stuff. Or you could just recommend characters that are lower investment and give ease to the game. Acheron can do everything in the game, though. With subpar units and subpar stats, Acheron can do basically everything. My point is,
OP.
I am not trying to hate on guide makers. I think guide makers are great. There is
Who thought she was hating on guide makers? What?
a difficulty in the community of being welcoming to new players if we gatekeep the community by secret hidden knowledge or by not calibrating information that we give people to all levels of game.
Do casual new players even use guides? I feel like guides are for freaking super sweats that will watch content on a game. Like 90% of the community doesn't even watch guides. Like I'd be willing to bet that. Like I don't think casual people watch YouTube videos on games. I'm gonna be straight up. Like no one, because I probably touch more grass and meet more real people that play games than anyone like that makes content. Like straight up. Like what I used to do for a living and where I had to go and the people I had to meet and the stuff I did with gaming. I met a lot of people. People that touch grass, people that don't. Casual gamers, sweaty gamers, best gamers in the freaking world. Like I met a lot of people. Most people don't watch content like at all. Like it's weird. Like I'm always like, but you don't watch any content on the game. Like what? You don't read patch notes? Are you crazy? Yeah, most people don't. So that's probably why guide makers typically lean more towards sweaty side.
Over time, that is going to mean that less people join, which means we get less cool new content creators.
All live services games will die eventually, and new people will quit joining eventually, unless you're freaking Fortnite.
We are going to get less new players who are interested in the game. Communities that don't allow new people to enjoy it and get into it and have a fun time, they get shittier and shittier and shittier, and then nobody wants to join it. I think I would like it if when we say should you pull for a character, we talk more about what it means for a character to be good. Recommending characters based on their usability and not the highest ceiling of what they can do is way better for the community.
True.
And making guides easier to understand by...
Could you imagine if all of our guides were just E6 showcases? God, that'd be so stupid.
Not assuming massive amounts of knowledge is better for the community. New players don't know everything, and when they load up a guide and they're talking about all of these terms and shit that ain't nobody know about, it's hard. And I guess I try to talk around it because I don't want to call out guide makers. I think guide makers are cool. But I think when guide makers primarily stream on Twitch and only know the community, insofar as those who are on Twitch, which are realistically the most engaged players in the community, right? The reality is that like you're like you need to explain in like stupid ass language. You need to explain some things like in like a dipshit.
If the guide makers took their guide, plugged it into ChatGPT, and said, "Say it like a 5th grader," that would be probably the best way to do it.
Don't need to know everything about the game when you start. What
if I started making guides to get people to buy characters from the view of a car salesman? Like what if I gave a car sales pitch and oh my gosh, this is a good content idea. When Adventuring comes out, I'm going to try this. We're going to experiment. I am going to do a car sales demo and sale of Adventuring. This is going to be amazing. This might be my new shtick. That'll be how I make the guides. We will literally do a car sales, we'll title it, thank you. I don't know why this video made me think of this. We're going to make a video, and it's going to be, car salesman sells Adventuring, or something like that. We're going to say, like, a freaking salesman, Hoyover salesman. That'll be what it is. Hoyover salesman series. I think this will be funny.
nice is if guide makers help build information. For example, if you are giving a guide on Dr. Ratio, it would be helpful to say, if you're an early game player, Dr. Ratio might be difficult for you to use if you do.
I do think the main problem with Hex Juice in this situation was she got a freaking Topaz and Numby when she first started the game. This is like the worst unit you could possibly get as a new player because she requires other units to be useful. She's the hunt path, and luckily she got a Doctor Ratio for free to pair with Topaz and Numby, but then she's still not amazing because she's missing other stuff. Her account now has everything she could possibly need outside of Ruan Mei to make this like an amazing team. But like the problem isn't necessarily Doctor Ratio because she kind of got Doctor Ratio to fix a Topaz and Numby problem. But if she didn't have Topaz and Numby in the first place, she probably never would have been recommended Doctor Ratio. Like, let's be fair. Let's be fair here. Like, Doctor Ratio without Topaz and Numby is so trash. Like, I have it. I have Doctor Ratio without Topaz and Numby, and I wish I had Topaz and Numby to make him do what he's supposed to do, which is part of her point, which is you need a lot more investment, and she just happened to pick the worst starting 5-star to get.
Do not have.
Like, I only skipped 2 units, Argenti and Topaz and Numby. That's the only characters I skipped on this game.
Have 2 of these 5 units, Dr. Ratio is going to be really difficult. If you are incapable of getting these relics,
Okay, I'm gonna keep it a buck though. Don't the guide makers say that usually? Like, I at least think Braxaphone does. Miss Pokey does. You know, Gotcha Smack. They're all pretty transparent. Like, if you're missing these supports, character sucks, and you need pretty much this level of baseline stats to make them work. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just reading into it myself. I don't know.
Dr. Ratio is not going to be very helpful for you. If you would like to still use Dr. Ratio, understand, you know, this mechanic. So like having things like that in every, like especially when you're recommending characters. If you're doing like those, like we're breaking down all 4 of the banners, right? And who you should wish for. It would be helpful to accommodate people who are lower on the scale of having the game done. Putting yourself in a new player's perspective. Guide makers should take into account the resource dump that is necessary to build a character to a usable stage and tell people it's not worth building until endgame or midgame. That's that part. And I think that also, not just guide makers, but the community should do this as well. Right now, the main thing that's fucking my account,
does that, doesn't he?
I don't have fuel and I don't have resin. So I can't do fuck all with my account right now. I could rerun Sim Universe and not get the relics from it. And I can...
I would advise no one even goes for relics till they have their traces and levels done on their units, on their 2 teams that they want to build, and then go for relics. But like, my relics are all horrible on my account. Like, yeah, they're not very good.
I can do MOC shit that I can't do. But like, I can't actually farm anything because I have no relics and I have no fuel and I have no resin. I can't do anything. But you know what would have been really nice is if I had been told that Dr. Ratio was not going to be super good for my account until I had a Pella and I shouldn't probably build him when I started.
True.
But that's not what I was told. And so I have a whole extra team that never ever performed very well for me because I didn't have the units until just...
That being said, Acheron without Pella is also pretty bad. Like, Pella makes a lot of characters really good. Like, if you don't have... Yeah, dude, if you pulled Acheron and you didn't get the freaking Gallagher and the Pella, I don't think you'd like Acheron at all. I think she'd be way too slow for you. Like, you would have to run her in the dot comp, but in the dot comp, she's not nearly as crazy. Like, not even close. You don't have Black Swan, so with just running her with, like, I guess Kafka, you'd be severely disappointed, I think.
Now, I just got Pella in the last couple days. So I have wasted materials on specifically Ratio and Topaz for weeks.
But that's
and it has meant that I am now stalled on my account because I was using my fuel and all my shit for that. I guess it is like I will play it no matter what. I'll play this game regardless until a better game comes out.
That's how we should all be.
Players, making people sound like they're idiots, giving players bad advice that will set their accounts back and make the game feel less fun and satisfying. It is a bad move long term. I want this community to succeed long term, and therefore I am bringing up a problem that is more apparent to me because of my situation than people who have been playing the game since release or near since release. And if you can disagree with my specific takes on specific characters, I have no desire to ever talk about Dr. Ratio again. I wish I could delete it from my account. My point is just simply, if you
So
respect
funny.
people's intelligence, while additionally,
She's funny.
you also understand that people don't know things that they don't know,
True.
we can have a better game and a better community, and we can bring more people.
Yeah, I mean, she's got a fairly cracked account. Yeah, I mean, her dot team's pretty good. I mean, okay, let's look at what she like realistically has. If she pairs Topaz, Ratio, why am I blanking? Pella. Maybe he's actually a lot worse for her account than I expected. Okay, here's what she does. She puts Topaz, Ratio, Gallagher, and no, not Wolfa. Topaz, Ratio, Gallagher, and I mean, I guess Tingya. I thought she had Bronya. Where is Bronya? Am I crazy? I thought she had a Bronya, like literally. I thought we saw one earlier. If she has the Bronya, I guess Bronya. And then the other side, you run freaking Acheron, you run Sparkle, you run Pella, and you run like Fire Trailblazer with the dot cone. And that's gonna like beat like everything in the game. Or you can take out Fire Trailblazer and put in freaking Welt. Like that'd be really good. And then if you have to run dot on a side, well then you have obviously your dot comp. But
if we don't do that, you're gatekeeping and the community's gonna suffer.
gatekeeping's cringe. Alright, final thoughts on the Hex Juice drama. I know she had a video that came out with Tectone where they kind of just talked about some stuff. And here's a 40-second clip. Let's see this.
Sounding. Edging.
What?
Jelking.
Oh god.
Gooning. Long ago, the four cum states lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the Jelking Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all four elements, could stop them. But when the world needed him most, he vanished. 100 years passed, and my brother, Mr. Pokey, and I discovered the new Avatar, a goon master named Tectone. And although his gooning skills are great, he has a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone. But I believe Techie can save the world. There we go. Fuck you! I did it.
What? My god, that was so funny. What the? Okay. Oh man, okay. Yeah, Hex is awesome. Go subscribe, follow Hex. Don't give her any hate for freaking not liking things. She had good takes there. I don't know why people were mad about it. I think people are just stupid and bored. I think the more that people freak out about stupid stuff online, the more the game's probably boring and needing an update, even though this is a pretty good patch. I think she talked with Tectone on his channel that I watched, and that was good. Go watch that too if you guys want even more context on the situation. This video is basically but an hour long, longest video I've ever done. But yeah, I think people are stupid, like straight up. I don't understand why people are not happy with her takes here. Like they're pretty freaking tame. She makes a lot of jokes. Are we not allowed to make jokes? Like obviously she's making fun of like the husbando. Like who cares? It's a game. Go touch grass. Seriously.